Hello, my name is Paul Snooks of the Worcester Environmental Group, and I'm going to share a dream with you today that I've had since I was a teenager. And we're going to be realizing this dream with on-site advocacy who work with people who have mental health issues, who are isolated, and that we're both very excited about this project that can make a huge difference to the well-being of the people of Worcester, and for it to be copied elsewhere, along with wildlife flourishing. And I've had a love of nature since I moved to North Devon as a child, at the age of 12 with my parents from the Black Country when it was heavily industrialized. And I was in heaven with that contact with nature. So many of us now are completely disconnected from nature. So we've decided to do something about it. We want biodiversity to flourish. We face a biodiversity emergency, not only a climate emergency. There's been a huge crash in the number of species, and Britain is sadly, one of the most nature depleted countries on this planet, and we want to do something about that. Let's look at our vision. We want to create a city where people and nature thrive together. We're planning on creating a 12-mile corridor around the city, connecting many of our green spaces. We want to motivate people to get out in nature to improve their physical and mental well-being. This wildlife corridor is absolutely essential for wildlife. Wildlife is atomized and cut off. And for example, certain pollinators can only move about 300 meters before they run out of fuel. We want to change that by connecting all of this together and connecting outside of this circle and inside it as well, and for this to be replicated all over the country. Did you know, for example, that bumblebees and honeybees do better in cities than in urban environments than they do in the countryside? There's so much variety that's going on in our cities for birds and bees and other pollinators to thrive on if it's done properly. And we want to set that up here in Worcester. We want to help people to connect with nature. When people are more connected with nature, instead of this nature deficit disorder that so many people suffer from, it's great for their well-being, and it's also great for nature because once you're connected with it, you want to take care of it. So what is our idea? So as I said, we'll have this 12-mile route around the city that people can walk, possibly cycle in places. There will be all kinds of different things going on. We'll be planting trees, food for free. Look at this. We were working in a Worcester Environmental Group. We're working in a community orchard recently. This mother and the child turned up and said, "Can we pick an apple?" And the child, what a wonderful message to give to a child. And we would have fruit trees all around the whole route. We'd also go for wildflower meadows. See two children walking through a beautiful meadow here. As I said, pollinators can only travel so far. They get stuck and then they die out because they interbreed and they can't move from the isolated spot. So we'd have these wildflower meadows. Edible hedges are really important for birds in the winter. Absolutely vital. We'd have lots of wild edible hedges that people could also go out and forage and pick. Native ivy, really important. There's a little wren with a nest. Ivy is a fantastic thing to have for robins and wrens to hide away and nest in. Brilliant for nectar. One of the last things for bees and many other pollinators to feast upon before the winter comes. Honeysuckle, great for moths, and then that's brilliant for bats. Here you got your bats. We want to have more ponds and wetlands around this route. Ponds have disappeared in vast numbers over the last 100 years. We want to reintroduce many more. There's a serious shortage of ponds, wildlife ponds in the UK, and that's something we want to do something about. We'd like to have bird boxes all around the route, hundreds of them. There's no natural holes now in our manicure Britain for birds to flourish and for them to roost and for them to have their nest boxes. So those are vital. And bat boxes as well. Bats are in decline. When we've got the wildflower meadows, the insects return and the honeysuckle and so on, that brings back the birds and the bats. Everything's tied up together. Here you've got swifts, which their numbers are declining massively. You've got here foxes and many other species that would benefit enormously from this route that we're proposing. And remember what I said, we want this to be an exemplar, a beacon for other urban environments here and around the world. Bug hotels would be a really important feature of this for all kinds of bugs to overwinter. We'll have these dotted around the whole site. Log piles, they're really, really important. And you can have leaf piles, log piles, and stone piles for all kinds of invertebrates to thrive. And we have a saying in Worcester Environmental Group, dead wood is very much alive, full of all sorts of invertebrates, great for woodpeckers, etc. We'd like sensory trails also. Absolutely fantastic for people, absolutely fantastic for wildlife. And we're very excited about this project, and we really, really would welcome the opportunity to work with you on this. We would have route signage around the whole route to help people to navigate around there. Most people aren't going to be doing 12 miles in one go, but it would be nice to be able to say, you're here now, half a mile down the road, down this route, there's a park or there's a meadow or whatever, and giving people clear information, including things like interpretation boards, with giving them maps and lots of information. Those will be dotted all around the route. As simple signs like this, oak tree. Most people don't know. I'm quite astonished as a keen naturalist, the number of people who don't know an oak tree or an ash tree or a hawthorn or whatever. We would have these dotted around the whole of the route so that people could learn a little bit. And there'd be a QR code on each of these so that they could get lots more information, more in-depth information from the Woodland Trust and the Wildlife Trust and so on, using their smartphones. And we would have natural play areas. Look at this. This is the kind of thing that you could have, and down here as well, natural play areas where children would be pulling their parents and saying, come on, let's go out and play in these natural play areas. So we'd have paid rangers and volunteers looking after the volunteers who will be looking after specific routes. We'd have benches all the way around, picnic benches to encourage people to go out and sit. There might be people who are not able to walk very far, the elderly. So we'd have benches and picnic benches along the whole route. We'd really would like to have a visitor centre, something similar to this here, with lots of information. You can see up here in this corner. We'd like to have artwork around the whole thing, foxes and pictures of statues of nature and so forth. So all sorts of works of art. Here in Worcester, we've had this wonderful trail of elephants and giraffes, and it's really excited people. We could have a trail of hedgehogs or foxes or badgers or whatever, and get people out on this route, discovering and finding all these things. We could have festivals. We recently had a festival of light that was really well attended in the city centre. We would like to have these festivals going on this route, introducing our residents and visitors to some of our fantastic green spaces that people are just not aware of. We'd like to, as I mentioned to you, if you just look at this map for a moment, you've got here the Severn Way, which is one of the longest paths in Britain, goes all the way from North Wales, along the River Severn, through Worcester and down to Avonmouth. So we'd really like for people, as they're walking on the route, information about, hey, you can go this way, get yourself a pair of boots and start going on many of the other walks. There's another walk here, the Monarch's Way, which follows the route that King Charles escaped, chased by Roundheads, goes on for several hundred miles, starts very near Worcester, where the last battle of the Civil War took place. So lots of routes out of the city. For example, the Sustrans routes, the bicycle and walking routes. We'll be giving people information when they're on this route. Did you know you can take this Sustrans route? You can take this walking route out of the city and into the city as well. And also creating these as wildlife corridors. We're going to be working with BugLife, who have these bee lines throughout the country, and one of them goes right past the northwest part of the city here, and we'd like to join up our wildlife corridor with lots of other wildlife corridors and places that people can traverse through, and join these up from city to city for our wildlife to flourish. We'd like to have signs like this that you can see down here, explaining to people why we've let some grass grow, that it's not a billiard table verge. And in my experience, when you explain to people, a light bulb goes on. So we'd very much like to do that as well. And next, we would like to have Max from C&T.org, who will explain to you about the kind of features that we could have with the app. We would have an app that people would go out and connect with nature. And now I'll hand over to Max from C&T.
There are many benefits to using GPS-based technology as the basis for a digital guide to this project. GPS technology is available on every internet-enabled phone, making it one of the most readily available technologies in the entire world. GPS stands for Global Positioning System, and this is exactly what it does. GPS enables a phone to know exactly where in the world it is located at any point. GPS technology will enable us to take the expertise of both the Worcester Environmental Group and on-site advocacy and digitally place this expertise in the heart of Worcester's community, making this expertise and related activities freely accessible at any time by anyone with a mobile phone. GPS-based mixed reality games have become very popular in recent years, with titles such as Pokemon Go popularizing the form. We will repurpose this form to not only playfully engage residents in wanting to take more care of their environment and knowing how, but it will also encourage the physical and mental benefits of doing so in an exciting and technologically innovative way. This will also create a lasting legacy of the project that can continuously be updated in the future, but will exist for years to come, permanently augmenting Worcester's green corridor and making it understandable, accessible, and engaging to all generations at any time on their terms.
In the next slide, I'd like to talk about the long-term results. The long-term results are going to be that, number one, we enhance the biodiversity of Worcester. We're in serious trouble. We are really in serious trouble, and this is some systemic, and we want to change that. And we want our residents and visitors to connect with nature and our heritage. And when they connect with it, they're going to want to take more care of it. And we want our physical and mental well-being to be improved, and this is why we're partnering with on-site advocacy. And finally, we want to become a beacon for cities elsewhere in the UK and beyond. As I said, the vast majority of us now live in cities, and the numbers certainly internationally are increasing. There are fantastic opportunities for what we're going to be doing to happen all over the world. And enormous benefit for biodiversity, enormous benefit for all the residents that are now living in these cities. You asked me to think big and dream big, and that's what we're doing. Thank you.